I've often have implored Falcons fans to continue to take a 30,000-foot view with this team. And I've done so because I want everybody to understand that just because you win a couple of games doesn't really necessarily escape what you're supposed to be and who you are. The Falcons, over the course of the first 3 weeks, statistically, not only did they have a great running game, but their defense wasn't anywhere near as bad as anybody had thought. And statistically, now you're starting to see the numbers wane a little bit. The Falcons had some sacks early on. Didn't get one last. They did well. The Grady Jarrett one doesn't count because it was a penalty, but nonetheless, you get the point. They have 8 sacks, which is tied for like 24th in the league, 25th in the league. It's not inside the bottom five, but it's just outside the bottom five. Their yardage, they're giving up 393 yards per game. It's not inside the bottom five, it's just outside the bottom five. And the problem is that over the course of the next 2 games, I think you're going to see those defensive numbers start to look like what we thought they would look like this year. Oh, the defense is going to be terrible. In reality, the defense situationally has played pretty good. They've gotten off the field in certain key junctures in the game. They've made stops at certain key junctures that they've needed to. Aside from week 1 against the Saints, they haven't really had, any major meltdowns or collapses. They held Tom Brady, who averaged 35 points a game against the Falcons in his career. They held him pretty much in check for 4 quarters, enough so that the offense could get back in it and theoretically give themselves a chance to win the game. So there are clear improvements, what we've seen with this team. Obviously, again, the run game is the biggest improvement that we've seen on this team. Why? Because, well, it actually works. As I said yesterday, the Falcons have an identity. The identity is being able to run the football. That's due to Arthur Smith sort of forcing that ideology down everybody's throats and everybody in the organization buying in. I think that is a big part of exactly what we are watching unfold here with the Falcons. I'm not going to get too caught up in some of the numbers. Maybe it's unfair for me to nitpick the numbers that I like versus the ones that I don't in order to uh, tell the story or the narrative of this year's Atlanta Falcons team. But I'm trying to extrapolate the things that are good that this team can build on and this franchise can build on going forward, as opposed to focusing on, oh, well, it's the same old stuff. Because I don't think it is the same old stuff. I think a lot of things have changed. I think there's a certain amount of this isn't the same old stuff that we need to focus on. I think it's more of there is reason for optimism in the big picture going forward as soon as they start to make, some roster moves that are, ones that can impact this franchise. In other words, when they add next year with players that are worthwhile, they'll have a chance to start to be better. But I think we're all more focused on the offense than the defense. I would like to see some more progression out of the defense, but it's not going to be easy over the course of the next 2 games. The 49ers, and they're going to go on the road to the Bengals in late October, which weather could play an issue in that game as well. But if the Falcons are a running team, it doesn't hurt them necessarily as much. I have a feeling this game could be one of the uglier ones for the Falcons. The way the 49ers have played and the way that they came out and beat the Panthers, and I know they're on back-to-back road games, and uh, they offensively they are clicking on all cylinders right now, and the defense is too good for any offense to have a big measure of success against them. I mean, if you look at the 49ers over the last couple of weeks, what they did to the Rams on Monday night, and then in a short week flying east. Now they stayed east this week. I think they went in West Virginia. But other than the embarrassing loss to the Broncos, where Jimmy Garoppolo just was on his first full week, and you could tell the offense was a little disjointed. Um, other than that, and that's a really good defense Denver has. They've looked really good offensively in their other 3 games, and the challenge this week will be on the defense. As much as people will focus on what the Falcons offense can do against San Fran, the challenge this week is going to be on the defense not to give up 30 to the Niners. I think that's something that everybody's starting to forget about a little bit. Want to pivot real quick to the Atlanta Hawks. They're going to take on the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight in Cleveland in a preseason game. I think they got one or two more preseason games before they start the regular season. I don't know how many games they have left. Thinking about it now, I'm not sure. But season doesn't start till November, so they clearly have to have more than one or two preseason games. Anyway, what I wanted to focus on was this team's offseason, comparatively speaking to last year, and where they are going. I look at what happened in Golden State with Draymond Green and, the punching of the teammate. And then you had Steve Kerr say yesterday, this is the biggest crisis that team has ever faced. Well, I guess to a certain extent, if that's the biggest crisis, you're doing okay. But on the other hand, it's one of those things where um, for him to say that because there was tumultuousness with his players sort of indicates where, how much that could rip apart a championship caliber team. This offseason has been very quiet, all things considered. Prior and leading up to the draft and the free agency period, when all the rumors were that the Hawks were moving on from John Collins and, the roster was going to be overhauled and this, that, and the other, like there was a lot of noise. It settled down. It got quiet quick. And it appears that everybody has gone back to work and that this team is in a good situation right now. That's comforting. It makes me at least believe that whatever has gone on this offseason, and whether it's Nate McMillan or the addition of Dejounte Murray or what, that they have figured out a way to sort of find a spot where it appears, again, because we haven't heard anything we don't know, but it appears that basketball has been the sole focus. And I think that's a good thing. That calming effect, I think, matters. I think it's something that absolutely you should want for your team during the off season. Um, I ultimately believe this team should be better record wise during the regular season than last year's. I stress record wise because I don't know that they're good enough yet to even get to the fourth seed in the East and host a playoff series. I think that for me is sort of the measure of improvement this year. Their win total was set at 43 and a half or 45 and a half. Sorry. Last year they won 43. Is Dejounte Murray good enough for three more wins? I would think so. That plus Trae Young being off ball a little bit more should get you into the high 40s. I think so. Feels like it's really, a possibility. But I also feel good about the fact that everything has quieted down and everything now is just about this team being better on the basketball court. That may serve them well because there's a lot of noise surrounding a lot of teams this offseason, whether it's Golden State, whether it's Boston. There's just always some sort of NBA noise out there, and it's been relatively quiet for the Hawks. And I think that ultimately is a very, very good thing.